Hello, my dear students. Today I will be starting and taking the 12th class syllabus. In 12th class syllabus, as I told you, there are 5 units. Unit 6 is the first unit, wherein the reproduction is discussed. Reproduction is elaborated. Unit 6 about reproduction, that is further divided into 4 chapters. Chapter 1 about the reproduction in organisms, an overview of reproduction, how many types of reproductions are there, just like vegetative reproduction, asexual reproduction, sexual reproduction. What are the outlines of the asexual and sexual reproductions? These aspects are described in chapter 1. Chapter 2 deals with sexual reproduction in flowering plants. Sexual reproduction is there both in higher plants, higher animals, but the reproductions are quite different, though the basic principles are same. Therefore, the reproduction in living organisms is divided into 2 types: sexual reproduction in flowering plants and sexual reproduction in animals. In animals, they have selected the human being, sexual reproduction in human being. Chapter 4 deals with reproductive health problems associated with reproduction. These aspects are dealt in chapter 4. This is Panchanana Maheshwari, an eminent botanist, a reputed Indian botanist. His main subject area of research was plant embryology. He was born in 9th November 1904, Jaipur. He had his education, BSc, MSc, at Allahabad University. Allahabad University is one of the oldest universities in India. Then, as a teacher, he joined in Department of Botany, Delhi University. Then he became professor and head. Recognizing his research contributions, Royal Society gave him the Fellow of Royal Society, a prestigious fellowship for any botanist or any scientist. He was Fellow of National Academy of Sciences. In fact, he has initiated the framing of the syllabus, writing the books, publishing the books for NCERT. He died at the young age, only at the age of 62. His son was Satish Chandra Maheshwari, whom I know personally, a famous molecular biologist. Just before his death, 1 month back, I spoke to him, Satish Chandra Maheshwari. Chapter 1, that is reproduction in organisms, an overview of reproduction, different types of reproductions, asexual, sexual, what are the different types of asexual reproductions. Then, what is sexual reproduction? What are the different events in the sexual reproduction? These are discussed in chapter 1. It is divided into 2 sections. The section 1 deals with asexual reproduction. Section 2 deals with sexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction. Before going to the actual asexual reproduction, let us try to understand some terms and some things in organisms. Lifespan. The period, what is lifespan? The period between the birth and natural death after becoming old is referred to as lifespan. Period between the birth and natural death. Natural death means after becoming old, not due to the disease, not due to the accident, or not due to some other thing. This is called lifespan. Lifespan may range from few days to thousands of years. Some plants live for only few days. Some organisms live for only few days. But some trees, plants, they live for thousands of years. There is no relation between the size and lifespan of an organism. Some are big sized plants, trees are there, big sized plants are there, big sized animals are there, like elephant, blue whale. But there is no relationship between the lifespan and size of the animal. Every organism has a death except unicellular organisms like amoeba. Amoeba goes on dividing. So therefore it has no natural death. Based on lifespan, how much duration they live, the plants are differentiated into seasonals, grow for only in one season, complete their life cycle in one season. Annuals live for only 1 year. Most of the crops we classify them as annuals. Biannuals for 2 years. Then perennials, they live for many years. Perennial. Reproduction is an essential feature of all living organisms. In 11th class, in the very first unit, we tried to understand what is the difference between the living and non-living. Reproduction is an essential feature, one of the important characteristics of the living organism. Definition of reproduction. Reproduction is defined as a biological process. It is found only in living organisms, a process going on in living organisms in which an organism gives rise to young ones or offsprings similar to itself. Offsprings will be similar to parent. A mustard seed upon germination gives mustard plant only. A cat gives rise to the kittens. Kittens, except in size, they are similar to the parents. This is the definition of reproduction. Reproduction enables the continuity of species in nature. When there is no reproduction, after the lifespan is over, they die. They disappear. But because of the reproduction, every plant, every animal, every living organism produces the offsprings. These offsprings grow, then again produce their offsprings. So this is a continuous process. Because of this continuous process, the species are continuing in nature for thousands of years, millions of years. In the lifespan of an organism, different stages are there: birth, growth, and death. 3 main stages. We can introduce one more stage here: senescence, becoming old. The birth, young stage. They grow, they become adults. After some time, they become old and ultimately die, meet the death. These are the 3 important stages in the life of an organism: birth, growth, death. Asexual reproduction. Now let us come to asexual reproduction. Asexual, which is not sexual. Asexual reproduction has no specific definition by word asexual reproduction. It doesn't denote the positive meaning. It denotes the negative meaning. A reproduction which is not sexual is asexual reproduction. Reproduction which is not sexual or which doesn't involve formation of gametes, fertilization, meiosis. These are the essential features of sexual reproduction. Formation of gametes, syngamy, fertilization, meiosis. If there is a reproduction without these events, then we can call it as asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction produces offsprings, young ones, similar to the parents. One cell, one individual gives rise to 2, 2 may 4, 4 to 8, 8 to 16, so on and so forth. Ultimately, a population of individuals will be produced. Now you see, a population of cells produced by asexual reproduction. Remember, a population of cells produced by asexual reproduction is called a clone. A population of cells or individuals produced as a result of asexual reproduction. Nowadays, this clone word is also used in tissue culture. Now, in tissue culture, from a single cell or single tissue, we are able to produce a large number of plants. Those plants are called clone. What are the characteristics of the clone? In a clone, all the cells or individuals will be morphologically and genetically similar. But in sexual reproduction, if the populations are produced, a number of individuals are produced, they are not alike. Morphologically or genetically, they will be dissimilar. There will be variation. Now, types of asexual reproduction. If you go through all the plants, animals, including the microorganisms, we can find different types of asexual reproduction. One is a binary fission, very common in bacteria and also in unicellular organisms like amoeba. Binary fission by 2. Budding. On one side of the cell, a bud will be produced that gradually grows into the parent size, that is called budding, is very common in yeast, Saccharomyces. Encystation. During unfavorable conditions, the vegetative amoeba cells become round encysts, and inside that a number of individuals will be produced. That is called encystation, common in amoeba. Sporulation. Some individuals, some organisms, especially fungi, algae, they produce the spores. Production of definite, well-defined asexual propagules. This is a very common method of reproduction in algae and fungi. Zoospores. Zoo means animal, spores. The spores which are animal-like means they can move. These are motile. How are they motile? They became motile because of flagella. These are common. Production of zoospores is very common in algae and lower plants. Conidia. These are dry, light, non-motile. Conidia or non-motile. There are many fungi. The very common example is penicillium. Buds, multicellular hydra. Gemmules, well-defined, multicellular, very common in sponges. Gemme multicellular definite structures are produced in some bryophytes like Rixia, Merkensia. Fragmentation, the filaments, algal filaments, fungal filaments break into small segments, small fragments. These fragments, under favorable conditions, they grow into the adult one. In higher plants, besides sexual reproduction, there is also asexual reproduction. Some vegetative propagules are produced. Rhizome, for example, you find in ginger, curcuma, tuber, potato, corm, colocasia, offset, eichhornia, sucker, chrysanthemum, runner, then bulb, just like onion, garlic, then leafy buds, bryophyllum. The modes of reproduction, diagrammatic representation. This is binary fission. Amoeba, vegetative cell, prepares for asexual reproduction. Then first the nucleus divides into two daughter nuclei. A constriction appears, deepens, and ultimately dividing the mother cell into two daughter cells. Always two are produced. This is the process of budding observed in yeast, Saccharomyces. Vegetative cell, budding, a bud produced on one side, a small protuberance. Meanwhile, the nucleus divides. One daughter nucleus enters into the bud. It grows, the constriction deepens, ultimately separating the bud or daughter cell. Very common mode of reproduction in yeast. This is a juice spores. This is juice sporangium. Inside this juice sporangium, juice spores are produced, mostly in aquatic forms, aquatic fungi, and in algae. These are spores, but because of the flagella, because of their motility, they are called juice spores. The juice spores come out of the juice sporangium, swim, go outside, and under unfavorable conditions, again they produce an individual similar to the parent's juice spores. These are Conidia penicillium. Conidiophore phylloids. On the phylloids, the spores or conidia are produced in basipetal succession, one upon the other. This is the oldest, this is the young. These are dry, very light, blown away by wind. When they fall on suitable substratum, they germinate and produce again the penicillium. This is a hydra, as you know. A daughter hydra is produced on one side. This is always under favorable conditions. Remember, always asexual reproductions under favorable conditions of the individuals. And this is the gemmules. Now this consider, let us in the next class.